The rain hammered against my windshield as I sat in the driveway, staring at the house I'd spent 5 years trying to perfect. Every board, every nail, every carefully chosen paint color, all of it felt like a monument to my stupidity now. I turned off the engine and listened to the rain, trying to summon the courage to walk inside and pretend everything was fine for one more day. My name is Michael Garrison, and 3 months ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair with my brother. This is the story of how I lost everything I thought mattered and found something I didn't know I was looking for. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Lisa and I met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was standing by the grill, arguing with the host about the proper way to season a steak, her hands moving animatedly as she spoke. Her passion for such a simple thing captivated me. I learned she was a third-grade teacher, that she'd grown up in Portland, and that she had opinions about everything from marinade techniques to the proper way to organize a bookshelf. "You're staring," my friend Jake had said, nudging me with his beer bottle. "Maybe," I admitted. "Her name's Lisa, just transferred here from Oregon. She's single." By the end of that night, I'd managed to make her laugh 3 times and secured her phone number. 6 months later, we were living together. A year after that, I proposed in the same backyard where we'd met, right by that grill. The early years were good, better than good. We bought a small house in Riverside Heights, a fixer-upper that I could work on during weekends. I worked construction then, framing houses for Brennan Developments, and I knew my way around a hammer. Lisa would bring me lemonade while I replaced windows or rebuilt the deck, and we'd plan our future while surrounded by sawdust and possibility. "One day," she'd say, running her fingers along the outdated kitchen counters, "we'll have one of those amazing kitchens. You know, the kind in magazines? With an island and one of those fancy ranges with 6 burners." "One day," I'd agree, kissing her forehead. That promise became my North Star. Every overtime shift I picked up, every weekend side job, every skipped lunch where I ate a sandwich in my truck instead of going to a restaurant, all of it went into what I privately called the kitchen fund. Lisa didn't know about the account. It was going to be a surprise for our 10th anniversary. Connor, my younger brother, had always been part of our life together. 2 years younger than me, he was the charming one, the one who could talk his way into or out of anything. While I was steady and predictable, Connor was spontaneous and exciting. He'd married Patricia right out of college, and they'd had 2 kids, Emma, now 8, and Tyler, 6. When Connor and Patricia divorced 2 years ago, Lisa and I were the ones who helped him through it. "He's drowning," Lisa had said one night after Connor left our house, slightly intoxicated and crying about missing his kids. "We need to be there for him." So we were. Sunday dinners, help with the kids during his custody weekends, a shoulder to lean on when Patricia's lawyer made things difficult. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. The way Lisa's face would light up when Connor walked in. The inside jokes that developed between them. The times I'd come home to find them deep in conversation that would abruptly stop when I entered the room. "Just talking about his custody situation," Lisa would say. "It's so complicated." I trusted them both. Why wouldn't I? Connor was my brother. Lisa was my wife. In my world, those were sacred boundaries that no one would cross. 5 years into saving for the kitchen, I finally had enough. $48,000. Enough for a complete gut renovation with all the bells and whistles Lisa had dreamed about. I'd been working with a contractor, Sam Reeves, for months, planning everything in secret. We'd do the work while Lisa and I were in Hawaii for 10 days, a trip I'd told her I'd won through a raffle at work. The morning we left for Hawaii, I could barely contain my excitement. "You seem really happy about this vacation," Lisa observed as we waited at the gate. "Just ready for a break," I said, thinking about the look on her face when we'd returned to her dream kitchen. Hawaii was perfect for the first 3 days. We snorkeled in Hanama Bay, hiked Diamond Head at sunrise, and ate too much poke. Lisa seemed relaxed for the first time in months, laughing at my terrible attempts to surf, holding my hand as we walked along Waikiki Beach at sunset. Then Sam called. "Michael, we've got a problem," his voice crackled through the phone. We opened up the wall between the kitchen and dining room like you wanted, but there's a load-bearing beam that's completely rotted through. If we don't address this now, you're looking at potential structural failure. I need your approval to proceed, and you need to sign off on the change order in person for insurance purposes. My heart sank. How long do I have? If you want us to continue on schedule? 24 hours, max. Otherwise, I have to pull my guys for another job, and we won't be able to get back for 3 weeks. I looked at Lisa, asleep on the hotel bed, her skin golden from the sun. I made a decision that would change everything. I'll catch a red-eye tonight, I told Sam. Don't tell anyone. I'll handle the beam issue and be back before my wife notices. I left Lisa a note saying I had to handle an emergency at work, that I'd be back in 2 days maximum, and that she should enjoy the resort. I kissed her forehead, she didn't stir, and caught a taxi to the airport. The flight felt endless. 6 hours of middle seat hell, my knees pressed against the seat in front of me, my mind racing with contractor questions and permit issues. I landed at 2:47 a.m. and drove straight home, exhausted but determined to handle this quickly and get back to Lisa. I parked down the street out of habit. Didn't want neighbors telling Lisa they'd seen me home when I was supposed to be in Hawaii. The house was dark except for a faint glow from the bedroom window. Maybe Lisa had left a light on for security. We did that sometimes when we traveled. I unlocked the front door quietly, not wanting to wake the neighbors. The living room was different. Candles everywhere, 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, a man's jacket draped over my recliner. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. Had someone broken in? Were we being robbed? Then I heard it. A laugh from upstairs. Lisa's laugh, followed by a deeper voice I recognized instantly. Connor. My legs moved without conscious thought, carrying me up the stairs I'd rebuilt myself, past the wedding photos I'd hung with laser precision, toward the master bedroom where the sounds grew clearer. The door was partially open. I could see them in the mirror first, a reflection that my brain refused to properly interpret because it was so impossible, so wrong. Lisa was with Connor in our bed. The bed my grandfather had built as a wedding gift for my parents, which they'd passed down to us. They were so absorbed in each other they didn't notice me standing in the doorway for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Oh, God, Lisa gasped, and that's when she saw me in the mirror. The next moments were chaos. Connor jumped up, scrambling for his clothes, stammering excuses that made no sense. Michael, brother, this isn't... It just happened. I was lonely, and you were gone, and... Shut up, I said quietly. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from very far away. Lisa pulled the sheet around herself, the Egyptian cotton sheets she'd insisted we needed, that cost $300, and stared at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Not guilt, not shame, defiance. How long? I asked. Does it matter? She responded. How long? She lifted her chin. 5 years. The room tilted. 5 years. The entire time I'd been saving for her kitchen, she'd been sleeping with my brother. 5 years, she continued, her voice gaining strength, of watching you work yourself to death for a stupid kitchen I mentioned once. 5 years of you being too tired to talk to me, too focused on overtime to notice me. Connor noticed me. I was doing it for you, I said, my voice breaking. I never asked you to. I asked you to be present, to be here. Instead, you were always at work, always planning for some future that never came. Connor tried to speak again. Michael, listen. Get out, I said. Both of you. Get dressed and get out of my house. It's my house too, Lisa said. Tonight it's mine. Get out. They dressed in silence. Connor couldn't look at me. Lisa maintained that defiance, as if I was the one who'd done something wrong. When they finally left, I heard Connor's Audi start up in the driveway. He'd parked in my spot, I realized with bitter amusement. And then they were gone. I sat on the floor of my bedroom until dawn, staring at the bed I'd never sleep in again, trying to understand how I'd missed it. 5 years. Every family barbecue, every Sunday dinner, every time Connor stayed over after drinking too much at dinner. How many times had they been together in my house? In my bed? When the sun finally came up, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Sam. Continue with the renovation, I said, but I need to make some changes to the plans. The second was to my lawyer, David Martinez, whom I'd helped build a deck for his house 2 summers ago. I need to see you today, I said. It's about a divorce. The third was to Patricia, Connor's ex-wife. We need to talk, I said. It's about Connor. That was 3 months ago. What followed was the most calculated, careful campaign of my life. See, the thing about construction work is that it teaches you patience. You can't frame a house until the foundation is set. You can't put on the roof until the walls are up. Everything has to happen in the right order, or the whole structure fails. My revenge would be the same way. Methodical. Precise. Devastating. The first thing I did was move out, but not in the way you'd expect. I told Lisa I needed space to process what had happened, that I wasn't ready to talk about divorce yet. Take all the time you need, she said, barely concealing her relief. I rented a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, just a place to sleep and plan. But before I left, I made sure the renovation continued. Lisa was confused. You're still doing the kitchen? She asked as the contractors arrived Monday morning. It's already paid for, I said. Might as well finish it. It'll increase the house value for when we sell. She accepted this explanation because it made sense to her practical mind. What she didn't know was that I'd made significant changes to Sam's plans. Every design choice Lisa had made over the years, every picture she'd torn from magazines, every Pinterest board she'd created, I reversed them. The Viking range she'd dreamed about became a basic GE model. The granite countertops became laminate that looked like granite from a distance, but felt cheap under your fingers. The custom cabinets were replaced with builder-grade boxes from Home Depot. But I added something special, a complete smart home system. Security, I told Sam when he questioned the extensive camera network. After what happened, I want to know who's in my house. Sam, who'd heard about the affair through the contractor grapevine, nodded sympathetically. I get it, man. We'll make it invisible. She'll never know they're there. Cameras in every room except the bathroom. Motion sensors, audio recording capabilities, all controlled by an app on my phone. All completely legal since my name was still on the deed and I hadn't moved out officially. I was just staying elsewhere temporarily. Within a week of my discovery, Connor had essentially moved in. His Audi was in the driveway every morning. His clothes appeared in my closet. His toothbrush stood next to Lisa's in the bathroom I'd retiled myself last summer. I watched it all on my phone, building my case. David Martinez was brilliant in his simplicity. In this state, adultery doesn't affect asset division, he explained, but it can affect spousal support. More importantly, if Connor is living there, we can make a case for waste of marital assets. He's benefiting from your investment without contributing. What about the fact that I'm recording them? You're on the deed. You've informed them that there are security cameras for the protection of the property. You did put up those little signs I gave you, right? The ones that say video surveillance in use? Yes, tiny ones by each door, just like you said. Then you're protected. You're not recording anywhere there's an expectation of privacy, like the bathroom. You're golden. Patricia was the harder conversation. I'd always liked my former sister-in-law. She was tough, smart, and had put up with Connor's behavior far longer than she should have. She was also a family court judge, which meant she knew exactly how to use what I was about to tell her. We met at a coffee shop downtown, one of those places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs that charged $6 for a regular coffee. I know why you're here, she said, before I could speak. Connor's been acting strange for weeks. Happier. He only gets that way when he's getting regular attention. 5 years, I said. It's been going on for 5 years. Her coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. 5 years? I showed her some of the footage on my phone. Nothing graphic, just Connor arriving at my house at various times. Him kissing Lisa in my kitchen, them cooking dinner together like a married couple. Patricia's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, disgust, then something cold and calculating that reminded me why she was so good at her job. "He's violating our custody agreement," she said quietly. "There's a morality clause. He can't have overnight guests when the children are present, and he can't expose them to any relationship that could be deemed harmful to their well-being." "The kids have been there," I confirmed. "Multiple times. I have footage of Emma asking why Uncle Michael isn't home, and Lisa telling her I work too much." "She's poisoning them against you while sleeping with their father." Patricia's voice was ice. "Send me everything. Every video, every date stamp, everything." "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done 2 years ago. Protect my children from their father's inability to keep his pants on." The next 2 months were an exercise in patience. I went to work every day, framing houses for other families while mine fell apart. But I wasn't just working. I was planning, documenting, preparing. Lisa and Connor grew bolder. They went out to restaurants together, posting on social media like they weren't committing adultery in full view of our families and friends. Lisa's teacher friends started distancing themselves. Connor's drinking buddies made jokes he didn't find funny. But they didn't care. They had each other. What they didn't have was money. See, Lisa had always been terrible with finances. She made decent money as a teacher, but she spent it as fast as it came in. Designer clothes, expensive makeup, weekend trips. She'd assumed I'd continue paying the mortgage and utilities on the house even though I wasn't living there. She assumed wrong. "I'm not paying for a house I can't live in," I told her when she called, panicking about the overdue notice from the electric company. "You can't just stop paying. My name is on the deed too." "Then you pay half. Or better yet, have Connor pay half. He's living there, isn't he?" Connor, it turned out, was broke. The divorce from Patricia had cleaned him out, and his job as a sales manager at a Mercedes dealership was heavily commission-based. No sales meant no money, and who wants to buy a luxury car from a man who's sleeping with his brother's wife? Word had gotten around. They scraped together enough to keep the lights on, but just barely. I watched through my cameras as they fought about money, about the future, about whose fault it was that they were in this situation. The passion that had sustained them for 5 years was curdling into resentment. Meanwhile, I was preparing for the kill shot. David had filed interesting paperwork with the court. Not just divorce proceedings, but a request for exclusive use of the marital home pending divorce. "It's unusual," he admitted, "but not unprecedented. You can show that she's allowed an unauthorized tenant to live there, Connor. You can show waste of marital assets. You can show that the situation is causing you emotional distress that affects your ability to work. We might just pull this off." Patricia was working her own angles. She'd filed for emergency modification of custody, citing Connor's violation of the morality clause and evidence that he was exposing the children to an inappropriate relationship. "He brought them to your house last weekend," she told me over the phone. "Emma asked me why Daddy and Aunt Lisa were sharing a bedroom when Uncle Michael was gone. She's 8 years old, Michael. She shouldn't have to navigate this." The court date for Patricia's emergency motion came first. November 15th, a Thursday that felt more like winter than fall. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching Connor squirm as Patricia's lawyer presented video after video from my security system. Connor with Lisa, kissing in the kitchen while Emma did homework at the table. Connor and Lisa in the pool while both kids played nearby, their hands all over each other. Connor telling Tyler that Uncle Michael doesn't understand what love is when the boy asked why I never came to dinner anymore. The judge, not Patricia, obviously, she'd recused herself, looked disgusted. "Mr. Garrison," she said to Connor, "you signed a custody agreement with a clear morality clause. You've not only violated that clause, but done so with your brother's wife, in your brother's home, in front of your minor children. This shows a spectacular lack of judgment." Connor's lawyer tried to argue that the relationship was serious, that Connor and Lisa planned to marry once the divorces were final. "That's not relevant," the judge cut him off. "The clause doesn't have exceptions for serious relationships. Temporary custody is awarded to Mrs. Garrison, with supervised visitation for Mr. Garrison to be reviewed in 6 months. Connor looked like he'd been punched. Lisa, sitting in the gallery, reached for his hand. He pulled away. My court date came the Monday before Thanksgiving. David was brilliant. Your Honor, my client isn't asking for anything unreasonable. He simply wants to live in the home he's been paying for while the divorce is processed. Mrs. Garrison has allowed her paramour, who happens to be Mr. Garrison's brother, to live there rent-free for 3 months. She's changed the locks, preventing my client from accessing his own property. Meanwhile, she's fallen 3 months behind on the mortgage, risking foreclosure on what is likely the couple's largest asset. The judge reviewed the financial documents, the security footage, the mortgage statements showing my payments for the last 10 years versus Lisa's contributions of 0. Mrs. Garrison, the judge addressed Lisa directly. Do you have anything to say? Lisa stood up, still defiant. That house is my home. I've lived there for 8 years. I've made it what it is. According to these records, you haven't made a single mortgage payment in 8 years. Is that correct? Michael wanted to handle the finances. That's not what I asked. Have you made any mortgage payments? No, but... And is Mr. Connor Garrison currently living in the home? He's staying with me during a difficult time. Is he paying rent? Contributing to utilities? The mortgage? Lisa's silence was answer enough. I'm granting the plaintiff's motion for exclusive use of the marital home. Mrs. Garrison, you have 48 hours to vacate the premises. Mr. Connor Garrison is to remove himself immediately as he has no legal right to be there whatsoever. The hammer came down, literally and figuratively. Thanksgiving was 3 days later. I'd invited my parents, who were devastated by the whole situation but stood by me. Patricia came with the kids. My sister Rachel flew in from Seattle with her family. We held it at my apartment, which was cramped but warm. Connor and Lisa, according to what I heard later, arrived at the house expecting to host their own Thanksgiving. They'd invited Lisa's sister and her family, told them everything was fine, that I was being difficult, but would come around. Instead, they found the eviction notices taped to the door and the locks already changed on court order. Lisa's sister, who hadn't heard the full story, was mortified when she learned the truth. She left with her family before the turkey was even carved. Connor and Lisa spent Thanksgiving in a motel room eating Chinese takeout because everything else was closed. But here's where the story gets interesting. Remember that morality clause in Connor's divorce decree? It didn't just affect custody. Patricia's lawyer, a shark named Bethany Coleman who'd gone to law school with Patricia, discovered something beautiful in the fine print. The alimony agreement Connor had signed included a cohabitation clause. If Connor cohabited with another partner, his alimony obligations to Patricia would automatically resume at the original rate plus interest for any missed payments. Connor had thought he was clever, keeping his apartment while essentially living at my house. But those security videos showed him there 7 nights a week for 3 months. That was cohabitation by any legal definition. He owes me $24,000 in back alimony, Patricia told me over coffee the week after Thanksgiving, plus ongoing support of $2,000 a month until Emma turns 18. Can he afford it? Not even close. His commission checks are garbage because his reputation is shot. Lisa's teacher salary won't cover it. They're financially screwed. She was right. The house sold in January. A quick sale because I'd priced it to move. After the mortgage was paid off and the proceeds split, Lisa walked away with $60,000. It seemed like a lot until you realized that Connor owed Patricia $24,000 immediately, and Lisa had to find a new place to live in a market where $60,000 was barely a down payment. They got an apartment together in a complex by the highway, the kind with thin walls and assigned parking spots. Connor took a second job driving for a rideshare company on weekends. Lisa started tutoring after school. They were together, but survival had replaced passion as their primary concern. I used my half of the house proceeds to start my own construction company. Turns out, when you have a story like mine, people trust you to secure their homes. Garrison Security and Construction specialized in smart home installations and security systems. My tagline, "Know who's in your home," might have been petty, but it was effective. Sam, my old contractor, came to work for me, bringing 3 of his best guys. We were booked solid within 2 months. There's something satisfying about building something from destruction, about creating security from violation. Patricia and I became friends, real friends, not just former in-laws tolerating each other. We'd have coffee every week, comparing notes on the kids, on work, on moving forward. She was seeing someone new, a prosecutor named James who treated her well and understood boundaries. You know what the funny thing is? She said one afternoon about 6 months after everything exploded. Connor called me last week. He wanted to know if I'd consider reducing the alimony. What did you say? I laughed. Then I hung up. Then I called my lawyer to make sure everything was ironclad. Good for you. You know they're miserable, right? Connor and Lisa. My neighbor sees them at the grocery store sometimes. They fight in public now. About money, about the kids, about whose fault everything is. I'd heard the same things. Lisa's teacher friends gossiped that she looked exhausted, that she'd stopped wearing makeup, that she brought the same sad sandwich for lunch every day. Connor had been turned down for a manager position at a Toyota dealership. Apparently, even they had standards about character. The thing is, Patricia continued, they can't leave each other now. They've destroyed everything else for this relationship. If they admit it was a mistake, then all that destruction was for nothing. So they're trapped by their own choices. She was right. I'd see them sometimes at the grocery store or the gas station. They moved like people carrying invisible weight, their early passion replaced by a grim determination to prove everyone wrong, to show that their love was worth the wreckage. Connor had lost his kids, his brother, and his financial stability. Lisa had lost her home, her reputation, and the life she'd built over 8 years. They had each other, but when you've paid such a high price for something, you start to resent it even as you cling to it. A year after D-Day, that's what I called the Discovery Day in my head, I was at a job site, installing a security system for a family that had just moved to town. The wife was showing me where she wanted the cameras, explaining that they'd had a break-in at their last house. It's not just about the stuff, she said. It's about feeling safe in your own home. Once that's violated, you never quite get it back. I understand, I said, and meant it. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it and found a message from Lisa. I know you won't respond to this, and I don't blame you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. The kitchen, the overtime, all of it. You were building something for us. I was so focused on what I didn't have that I destroyed what I did. Connor and I are getting what we deserve. I'm sorry. Not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Apologies don't rebuild trust any more than laminate countertops become granite just because you wish hard enough. That night, I had dinner with Patricia and the kids at my new place, a modest house I'd bought and was slowly renovating. Emma helped me set the table while Tyler showed me his latest Lego creation. Patricia was in the kitchen, laughing at something James had texted her. Uncle Michael, Emma said quietly while we put out the silverware, are you happy now? It was such a simple question from an 8-year-old who'd watched her family explode and reshape itself. You know what? I said, straightening a fork. I'm getting there. And I was. The anger had faded to a dull ache, then to indifference. The revenge that had consumed me for months had run its course, leaving something unexpected in its wake. Freedom. I was free from a marriage built on deception. Free from the weight of trying to make someone happy who was determined to be miserable. Free to build something new, something genuine, something that couldn't be destroyed by anyone but me. The security company was thriving. I'd hired 2 more crews and was looking at office space. I'd started dating casually, nothing serious, just coffee and conversation with women who didn't know my history and didn't need to. I was rebuilding, one careful piece at a time. Connor and Lisa were still together, as far as I knew. Still in that apartment by the highway. Still fighting in grocery stores. Still paying for 5 years of choices that had seemed worth it in the dark, but withered in the light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's construction. building something better from the rubble, something they can see, but never touch, never claim, never destroy again. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well while they live with what they've done. 2 years have passed now since that night in Hawaii when everything changed. The business has expanded to 3 cities. I bought out Sam and made him a partner. We're doing high-end smart home installations for people who value security and are willing to pay for peace of mind. Patricia remarried James in a small ceremony last spring. I was there, managing the kids while she and James exchanged vows. Connor wasn't invited, obviously. He found out through social media, according to Patricia. He'd called her 16 times that night. She didn't answer once. The kids are doing better. Tyler barely remembers the chaos now. He was so young. Emma is more cautious, more watchful, but she's in therapy and learning to trust again. They spend every other weekend with me now, by their choice. Connor gets supervised visits once a month, which he misses half the time because he's working. I heard through the grapevine that Lisa had a pregnancy scare last year. Can you imagine? Bringing a child into that mess? Thankfully, it was just a scare. They could barely afford groceries, let alone a baby. The gossip mill said it caused a massive fight, with Connor accusing Lisa of trying to trap him further, and Lisa accusing Connor of ruining her chance at a real family. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd had a real family. She'd thrown it away for excitement, for passion, for someone who noticed her. Now she had all his attention. Every frustrated, resentful, exhausted moment of it. My lawyer David called last month with interesting news. Lisa had reached out about potentially modifying the divorce settlement. She wants to know if you'd be willing to buy out her portion of your business, he said. She has no portion of my business. It was started after separation with proceeds from the house sale. I know that. You know that. But she's desperate. Connor lost his job at the dealership, finally fired for poor performance. They're behind on rent. She's hoping you'll throw her some money just to make her go away. Tell her no. With pleasure. The funny thing about consequences is that they compound. Every bad decision Connor and Lisa made led to another, then another, until they were so deep in the hole they couldn't see daylight. Connor's drinking got worse. Lisa's bitterness grew sharper. They were becoming the worst versions of themselves, all while clinging to the fiction that their love was worth it. I saw Connor once more, about 6 months ago. I was at a red light when I noticed the Uber driver in the next lane looked familiar. It was him, gray at the temples now, wearing the exhausted look of someone working 3 jobs to stay afloat. Our eyes met for a moment. He started to roll down his window, maybe to say something, but the light turned green and I drove away. There was nothing left to say. Last week, Patricia forwarded me an email Connor had sent her. He was begging for reduction in alimony, claiming hardship, threatening to declare bankruptcy if she didn't compromise. What are you going to do? I asked her. Nothing. Bankruptcy won't discharge alimony in this state. He can declare all he wants. He'll still owe me every penny. You could show mercy. She laughed, but it wasn't bitter, just practical. He made his choices. So did Lisa. They wanted to be together so badly they were willing to destroy 2 families for it. This is what together looks like for them now. Struggling, desperate, and stuck with each other because they can't afford to separate. She was right. The ultimate irony of Connor and Lisa's grand passion was that it had become a prison. They couldn't afford to break up. Separate apartments, separate utilities, separate lives, all impossible on their combined income with Connor's alimony obligations. They were sentenced to each other, bound not by love, but by economics and the sunk cost of so much destruction. The last update I heard came from Rachel, my sister, who still lived in Seattle but kept tabs on everyone through social media and mutual friends. Lisa's sister posted something, she told me during our monthly video call. Apparently, Lisa and Connor had a huge fight at her kid's birthday party. Police were called. What happened? Connor was intoxicated, accused Lisa of cheating with some guy from her tutoring job. Lisa threw a drink in his face. They were asked to leave. The sister is mortified, says she's done with both of them. Cheating, I said, tasting the irony. That's rich. Once a cheater, always paranoid about cheating, Rachel said. They know what they're capable of, so they assume everyone else is capable of it too. It was perfect, really. They destroyed 2 marriages for their relationship. And now that relationship was poisoned by the very suspicion and mistrust that their actions had proven justified. How could Connor trust Lisa when he knew she'd lied to me for 5 years? How could Lisa trust Connor when she knew he'd betrayed his own brother? They were trapped in a relationship built on mutual betrayal, always wondering when the other shoe would drop. I'm telling this story now, 3 years after it all began, because I finally have perspective. The rage has cooled to indifference. The pain has scarred over. The revenge, while satisfying in the moment, wasn't what healed me. What healed me was building something new. The business is thriving. We're opening a 4th location in Austin. I bought a beautiful house, nothing fancy but solid and secure, with a workshop where I build furniture in my spare time. I'm seeing someone now, a lawyer named Jennifer who knows my history and doesn't care. She's been divorced too, understands that some wounds make you stronger if you let them heal properly. You know what I admire about you? She said last week over dinner. You could have let it destroy you. Plenty of people would have. Instead, you channeled it into something productive. I wanted them to suffer, I admitted. And they are. But not because of what you did to them. They're suffering because of what they did to themselves. You just made sure there were consequences. She was right. I hadn't destroyed Connor and Lisa. I'd simply removed the safety nets, the enabling, the protection from consequences. Their destruction was entirely self-inflicted, a slow-motion collapse that continued long after I'd stopped paying attention. The house, our old house, has been sold twice since Lisa and I divorced. I drove by it last month out of curiosity. The new owners had painted it yellow, Lisa's least favorite color. They'd ripped out the kitchen I'd renovated and put in something modern and cold. Good. It needed to be different, needed to belong to someone else's story. My phone buzzed while I was sitting there. Patricia, sending a photo from Emma's dance recital. Connor hadn't shown up, again. But I was there, in the front row, recording it on my phone. Tyler was next to me, playing with the program, occasionally looking up to wave at his sister. This was my life now. Not the life I'd planned, but maybe the life I needed. One built on truth instead of deception, on genuine connections instead of convenient lies. As for Connor and Lisa, the last I heard, they were still together, still in that apartment by the highway, still fighting their way through the consequences of their choices. Someone told me Lisa had started wearing her wedding ring again. Not mine. A cheap band Connor had bought from a pawn shop because he couldn't afford anything else. It turned her finger green, apparently. Fitting. They got what they wanted. Each other. They lost everything else in the process, but they got each other. And now, they're stuck with that victory, that Pyrrhic triumph that cost them their families, their financial security, their reputations, and any chance at the happiness they thought they were chasing. The kitchen I'd saved 5 years to build? It's in someone else's house now, probably already outdated. But the company I built from its ashes? That's mine. The relationships I've rebuilt with real trust? Those are mine. The future I'm creating without lies and betrayal? That's mine too. Connor and Lisa can keep each other. Based on what I've seen and heard, that's punishment enough. Looking back, I realized the most savage thing I did wasn't the eviction, or the cameras, or even taking the house. It was letting them have exactly what they claimed to want. Each other, without the safety net of stable homes, without the excuse of sneaking around, without the thrill of the forbidden. Just the two of them, facing the daily grind of bills and rent and survival with someone they no longer trusted but couldn't afford to leave. They wanted passion? They got survival. They wanted excitement. They got exhaustion. They wanted each other. They got each other. Every disappointing, frustrating, trapped moment of each other. Sometimes the best revenge isn't taking something away. Sometimes it's giving people exactly what they asked for and letting them choke on it. My story doesn't end with reconciliation or forgiveness. It doesn't end with me finding peace through letting go of anger, though that happened eventually, naturally, like bleeding eventually stops. It ends with something simpler. I won. Not because I destroyed them, they did that themselves. I won because I rebuilt, because I took the demolition of my life and used it as a foundation for something better. Because while they were sinking in the quicksand of their choices, I was laying brick after brick of a new existence. The security company now employs 30 people. We have contracts with the city for municipal buildings. I'm teaching Tyler to work with wood in my workshop, showing Emma how to code the smart home systems. These aren't my kids, but they're family now in ways that matter more than blood. Jennifer and I are taking things slow, but there's something real there. She makes me laugh. She doesn't need me to work overtime to prove my love. She has her own career, her own strength, her own sense of self that doesn't require constant validation. When she stays over, she brings coffee in the morning, and we sit on the porch I rebuilt, watching the sunrise, not needing to fill the silence with promises or plans. Last Christmas, Patricia hosted dinner at her new house with James. The kids were there, my parents, Rachel, and her family. At one point, Emma asked if we could invite Connor. He's lonely, she said, with the heartbreaking empathy of a 10-year-old. Patricia handled it perfectly. Your father made choices that have consequences, sweetheart. Being lonely is one of them, but you can call him later if you want. Emma did call. Connor didn't answer. He was working, driving someone to the airport for surge pricing on Christmas Day. Lisa was home alone in their apartment, according to her sister's bitter social media post, because she couldn't afford to fly home and her family wouldn't pay for the ticket. This is what victory looks like. It's not standing over the bodies of your enemies. It's standing in a room full of people who choose to be there, who value trust and loyalty and truth. It's building something that can't be destroyed by betrayal because it's founded on something real. Connor and Lisa thought they were trading up, upgrading from stable, boring marriages to something electric and dangerous. Instead, they traded down to survival, to mistrust, to the kind of trapped desperation that makes people old before their time. I saw a photo of them recently, posted by someone who didn't know the history. They were at a barbecue, the free kind that companies throw for employees. Connor had gained weight, his face puffy from drinking. Lisa looked thin, not healthy thin, but stressed thin, the kind that comes from skipping meals to save money. They were standing next to each other but not touching, both looking at their phones instead of each other. 5 years of passion reduced to two people who couldn't afford to leave each other, standing side by side but utterly alone. That's the real tragedy of their story. Not that they got caught, not that they faced consequences, but that they achieved exactly what they thought they wanted. They got to be together, forever, because forever is what happens when you can't afford any other option. Meanwhile, I'm typing this from my office, looking at the business I built, the life I reconstructed, the future I'm creating. The walls are covered with photos from job sites, thank you cards from clients, drawings the kids made of Uncle Michael's cool robot houses. My grandfather, the one who built that bed they defiled, was a carpenter too. He used to say, measure twice, cut once, and never build on a rotten foundation. Connor and Lisa built on deception, on betrayal, on the rotten foundation of destroyed trust. No wonder it all collapsed. I built on truth, on consequences fairly applied, on the solid foundation of accepting what happened and choosing to move forward anyway. 3 years later, their structure is still crumbling, settling into deeper dysfunction with each passing month. Mine grows stronger, adding new rooms, new possibilities, new reasons to wake up grateful instead of trapped. This is my revenge story, but it's also my rebuilding story. Because the best revenge isn't just watching them fall, it's rising so high that their betrayal becomes nothing more than a footnote in a much better chapter. The notification on my phone buzzes. It's Jennifer, sending a photo from the hardware store. Which tile for the bathroom renovation? She asks, showing 2 options. I smile, remembering another woman, another renovation, another life. But this time, I'm not working overtime to afford it. This time, it's a project we're doing together, with money we've saved together, in a house that's ours together, Legally, emotionally, truly. The one on the left, I text back. It's classic. It'll age well. Like trust. Like truth. Like everything I'm building now, one careful, measured piece at a time. Connor and Lisa wanted excitement, and they got it. Every exhausting, expensive, soul-crushing moment of it. They're living their excitement in that apartment by the highway, counting pennies and accusations, trapped in the prison of their own making. Me? I wanted to build something beautiful for someone I loved. It took destruction and betrayal and starting over, but I'm doing it anyway. Just not for them. For me. For the kids who trust me. For the woman who sees my value beyond what I can provide. For the future that's mine to build however I choose. That's the ultimate revenge. Not just surviving their betrayal, but thriving because of it. Not just watching them suffer, but being too busy building something wonderful to notice if they still are. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold through my office window. Somewhere in this city, Connor is probably driving another stranger to another destination, his back aching, his dreams dead. Lisa is probably grading papers in their cramped apartment, wondering how a kitchen renovation turned into this narrow, suffocating life. And me? I'm going home to Jennifer, to dinner with the kids this weekend, to a life that's mine by choice and effort and the simple decision to build something better from the wreckage. They kept each other. I kept everything else. My integrity, my future, my ability to trust and be trusted. In the end, I think I got the better deal. This is where the story ends, not with a bang, but with a life well lived. The opposite of betrayal isn't revenge, it's reconstruction. The opposite of deception isn't destruction, it's truth. And the opposite of their kind of love isn't hate, it's indifference, earned through distance and time, and the simple recognition that the best revenge is a life that no longer needs it. Rhetoric. You wrote me 6K words. I need 1117K words, so rewrite this story. Add more details, dialogue, plot, or whatever. Edit. The rain hammered against my windshield as I sat in the driveway, staring at the house I'd spent 5 years trying to perfect. Every board, every nail, every carefully chosen paint color, all of it felt like a monument to my stupidity now. The wipers squeaked across the glass in a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. Betrayed. 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 I turned off the engine and listened to the rain, trying to summon the courage to walk inside and pretend everything was fine for one more day. My name is Michael Garrison, and 3 months ago I discovered my wife was having an affair with my brother. This is the story of how I lost everything I thought mattered and found something I didn't know I was looking for. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, the real beginning. Lisa and I met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue in late May. The air smelled like charcoal and cut grass, and kids were running through a sprinkler in the backyard. She was standing by the grill, arguing with our host, Dave, about the proper way to season a steak. Her hands moved animatedly as she spoke, her dark hair catching the afternoon sun every time she gestured. "You're destroying it with all that sauce," she was saying, pointing an accusatory finger at Dave's marinade bowl. "A good steak needs salt, pepper, and respect for the meat. That's it." "That's the most pretentious thing I've ever heard about food," Dave laughed, but he was already putting the sauce aside. I watched from across the patio, nursing a beer I'd been holding so long it had gone warm. She was wearing a sundress with tiny flowers on it, and when she laughed at something Dave said, her whole face transformed. Not just a smile, a complete restructuring of her features into pure joy. "You're staring," my friend Jake said, appearing at my elbow with 2 fresh beers. "Pretty obvious about it, too." "Maybe," I admitted, taking the cold beer gratefully. "Her name's Lisa, just transferred here from Portland to teach at Riverside Elementary, 3rd grade. She's single, smart, and apparently has very strong opinions about meat preparation." "You've done reconnaissance?" "My wife did. She's been trying to set Lisa up since she got to town 3 months ago. You want an introduction?" I watched Lisa flip a steak with professional precision, then turned to high-five a kid who'd been watching her technique. "Yeah," I said. "I do." Jake's wife, Melissa, made the introduction with about as much subtlety as a freight train. "Lisa, come meet Michael. He's single and has a job and all his teeth. Lisa laughed, that transformative laugh again, and extended her hand. Well, all your teeth is definitely my top requirement in a man. Lucky me, I said, shaking her hand. I even floss. Overachiever. We talked by that grill for 3 hours. About everything and nothing. Her childhood in Portland, my work in construction, her theory that third graders were actually tiny philosophers, my belief that houses had personalities. The party moved around us, people coming and going, but we stayed by that grill until the coals had turned to ash and the mosquitoes drove everyone inside. I should probably head home, she finally said, checking her phone. I have lesson plans to finish for tomorrow. On a Sunday night? The glamorous life of a teacher. She smiled, but there was something else there. A test, maybe, to see if I'd judge her for working on a weekend. I respect it, I said. I'm usually up at 5 on Mondays to get to job sites, building houses for people who sleep in until 7. The working class heroes? She raised her empty beer bottle in a mock toast. Maybe we could be heroes together sometime? Over dinner? Somewhere that respects the meat? I got her number. Our first date was the following Friday at a steakhouse downtown, where they brought the raw cuts to your table for approval before cooking. Lisa ordered the ribeye, rare, and when the waiter asked if she wanted any sauce, she looked at him like he'd suggested putting ketchup on ice cream. I think I love you, I said without thinking, then immediately wanted to crawl under the table. But she laughed, always that laugh, and said, Let's see how you handle your steak before we make any declarations. 6 months later, we were living together in my apartment near the University District. It was small, just a one-bedroom with a kitchen so narrow we had to turn sideways to pass each other, but it felt like a palace because she was in it. I'd come home from work covered in sawdust and drywall dust, and she'd be at the tiny dining table, grading papers with 3 different colored pens, her reading glasses sliding down her nose. How are the tiny philosophers today? I'd ask, kissing the top of her head. Emma Jenkins asked if trees get sad when their leaves fall off, and that led to a 20-minute discussion about whether plants have feelings. I love my job. She'd make dinner while telling me about her day. Which kid had a breakthrough with reading, which parent was being difficult, how she'd spent her lunch break helping the janitor fix a broken shelf because she knew I'd taught her how to use a drill. I'd tell her about the houses I was framing, the blueprints that didn't make sense, the satisfaction of seeing walls rise from nothing. We were good together. Easy. Natural. Like 2 pieces of wood that had been cut to fit. A year and a half into dating, I knew I wanted to marry her. But I wanted to do it right. Make it special. I spent 2 months planning the proposal, even drove to Portland to ask her father's permission. He was a traditional man who appreciated the gesture, even though he knew his daughter would do whatever she wanted, regardless of his opinion. The proposal happened at Dave's house during another barbecue, right by the same grill where we'd met. I'd arranged it with Dave and Melissa, made sure all our friends were there. When I dropped to one knee, Lisa was in the middle of explaining to someone why you should let meat rest after cooking. Michael, what are you? Oh my God. Lisa Marie Hendricks, I said, my hands shaking as I opened the ring box. You have spent 2 years teaching me about proper steak preparation, the philosophical insights of 8-year-olds, and how to be a better man than I was when I met you. Will you marry me? She didn't say yes right away. Instead, she knelt down too, so we were eye to eye and took my face in her hands. You sure about this? She asked quietly. I'm difficult. I work too much. I have opinions about everything. I'll rearrange your furniture and criticize your cooking and make you watch teacher documentaries on Netflix. I'm sure, I said. I love all of that. I love you. Then yes, yes, absolutely yes. The backyard erupted in cheers. Dave popped champagne he'd been hiding in a cooler. Someone started playing At Last by Etta James on their phone. Lisa and I slow danced on the patio, her engagement ring catching the light from the tiki torches, both of us crying and laughing at the same time. We got married 8 months later in a small ceremony at Riverside Park. Nothing fancy. We were saving for a house, but perfect in its simplicity. Lisa wore her grandmother's wedding dress, altered to fit. I wore the only suit I owned. Connor was my best man. Connor. I need to tell you about Connor. My younger brother by 2 years, Connor had always been everything I wasn't. Where I was steady and predictable, he was spontaneous and exciting. I'd spent high school studying and working part-time at a hardware store. Connor had spent it as quarterback of the football team and homecoming king. I went to community college for construction management. Connor got a full ride to State University for business. But here's the thing about Connor. He was my brother, and I loved him. Despite our differences, or maybe because of them, we were close. He was the one who'd stayed up with me all night when my high school girlfriend dumped me. I was the one who'd bailed him out of jail when he got a DUI in college. We had each other's backs, always. You nervous? He asked me in the small room where we were waiting before the ceremony. Terrified, I admitted, trying to fix my tie for the 10th time. Don't be. He fixed my tie with practiced ease. Of course, he knew how to tie a perfect Windsor knot. Lisa's perfect for you. She grounds you but doesn't hold you down. You steady her but don't bore her. It's a good match, Mike. What about you and Patricia? I asked. Connor had been dating Patricia Reeves for 3 years, and everyone expected them to be next. Next summer, he said, with his characteristic confidence. Already got the ring, just waiting for the right moment. He was true to his word. Connor and Patricia married the following July in a massive wedding that Patricia's parents paid for. 200 guests, country club reception, the works. Patricia was a family court lawyer, beautiful and sharp as a razor. She and Connor looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine when they stood at the altar. Lisa and I bought our house 3 months after Connor's wedding. It was a fixer-upper in Riverside Heights, a neighborhood just starting to gentrify. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in 1962, with good bones, but everything else needed work. It's perfect, Lisa said when we did the walkthrough, even though the kitchen hadn't been updated since Carter was president and the master bathroom had green shag carpet. We can make it ours. And we did. Every weekend for 2 years, we worked on that house. I did the heavy construction, replacing windows, fixing the roof, rebuilding the deck. Lisa painted every wall, chose every fixture, spent hours at estate sales finding the perfect vintage doorknobs and light switches. We'd work until we were exhausted, then order pizza and eat it sitting on the floor of whatever room we were renovating, planning what came next. Connor and Patricia were frequent visitors in those early years. They'd come for dinner, bringing wine and Patricia's famous spinach dip. Connor would help me with whatever project I was working on while Lisa and Patricia sat on the deck, drinking wine and gossiping about Patricia's cases and Lisa's students. You guys are like an old married couple already, Connor said one night, watching Lisa and me navigate around each other in our narrow kitchen with practiced ease. It's been what, 3 years? 4, Lisa corrected, kissing my cheek as she reached around me for the salad bowl. 4 years of domestic bliss. How do you do it? Patricia asked. She and Connor had been having some issues. Nothing major, just the standard newlywed adjustments. You never seem to fight. Lisa and I exchanged glances. We fight, Lisa said. We just don't fight in front of company. What do you fight about? Connor asked, genuinely curious. Money, mostly, I admitted. I want to save everything for the house. Lisa wants to actually enjoy life occasionally. He wanted to skip our anniversary dinner to buy a table saw, Lisa said, rolling her eyes. A table saw? It was on sale, I protested. 40% off. Everyone laughed, but looking back, I can see the seed of our destruction in that conversation. Lisa wanted presence, experience, life lived in the moment. I wanted to build something, create something, always focused on the future. The kitchen became a symbol of all of this. Our kitchen was functional but ugly. Old cabinets, laminate counters that were pulling away from the wall, a stove from the 1980s that only had 3 working burners. Lisa would flip through home improvement magazines, sighing over marble countertops and professional ranges. One day, she said one evening, running her hand along the peeling laminate, we'll have a kitchen that doesn't make me sad. I promise, I said, pulling her close. I'll build you the kitchen of your dreams. That promise became my obsession. I opened a separate savings account, labeled it Kitchen Fund in my mind. Every overtime shift I could pick up, every side job on weekends, every dollar that didn't go to bills or necessities went into that account. You're working too much, Lisa would say when I'd come home at 10 p.m. after doing a side job. Just trying to get ahead, I'd reply, too tired to explain that every hour of overtime was another tile for her backsplash, another inch of granite for her countertops. Meanwhile, Connor and Patricia had Emma, then, 2 years later, Tyler. They seemed happy from the outside, the perfect family in their perfect house in the suburbs. But there were cracks. Connor had a wandering eye that Patricia pretended not to notice. Patricia had a sharp tongue that she used like a scalpel when she was unhappy. Your brother's an idiot, she told me one Christmas, after a few too many eggnogs. Connor was across the room, talking to Lisa by the fireplace, both of them laughing at something on his phone. What did he do now? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. His secretary, 23 years old, fresh out of college, legs up to here. She gestured vaguely at her neck. He thinks I don't know. Patricia, don't worry, I handled it. Had a friend from law school call looking for a secretary. She took the job. Problem solved. She smiled, but it was all teeth, no warmth. Your brother needs boundaries, Michael. Without them, he's just a dog chasing cars. I should have paid more attention to that conversation. Should have noticed how Connor's eyes lingered on Lisa when she laughed, how he always found excuses to sit next to her at family dinners, how she started dressing up more when she knew he was coming over. But I was too focused on the future, on the kitchen fund that was slowly growing, on the overtime that would make it all possible. 5 years into our marriage, things started to change. It was subtle at first. Lisa stopped talking about her day when I got home. She'd be on her phone, texting with a small smile that disappeared when I asked what was funny. She started going to bed earlier, always asleep by the time I finished checking my accounts, calculating how much more we needed. We never talk anymore, she said one night, surprising me by being awake when I climbed into bed. We're talking now. No, Michael, really talk, like we used to, about dreams and ideas and stupid things that don't matter. All you talk about now is work and money and the house. I'm doing this for us, I said, the same defense I always used. I didn't ask you to. You talk about the kitchen all the time. I mentioned it once, Michael. Once, maybe twice. You're the one who turned it into this crusade. We went to sleep angry that night. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. Connor started coming over more often during this period. Patricia was always working late on big cases, and he'd bring the kids over for dinner. Lisa loved Emma and Tyler, would spend hours playing with them, helping Emma with her homework, teaching Tyler to tie his shoes. You're a natural, Connor said one evening, watching Lisa help Emma with a science project about butterflies. You should have kids of your own. Someday, Lisa said, but her eyes found mine across the room. We'd been trying for 2 years without success. The doctors said there was nothing wrong with either of us, just bad luck. Keep trying, they said. It'll happen when it happens. I started working even more, telling myself it was for the kitchen, but knowing it was also to avoid the growing tension at home. Lisa started staying late at school, running after-school programs, tutoring struggling students. We were 2 people living in the same house but occupying different worlds. I'm worried about you guys, Patricia said one day when she picked up the kids. Connor had taken them to our house again, and she'd come to get them. You and Lisa, you seem distant. We're fine, I said automatically. Michael. She fixed me with her lawyer stare. I see couples fall apart every day in court. You know what they all say? We were fine right up until they weren't. What do you want me to do, Patricia? I'm working my tail off to give her everything she wants. Maybe try asking what she actually wants instead of assuming you know. But I didn't ask. I just kept working, kept saving, kept planning for a future that was getting hazier by the day. The Hawaii trip was supposed to be a reconnection. 10 days in paradise, just the two of us, no work, no distractions. I'd saved for it separately from the kitchen fund, wanted it to be a surprise. When I told Lisa I'd won it in a work raffle, her face lit up for the first time in months. Really? Hawaii? 10 days, Maui, ocean view room, couples massage, the works. She threw her arms around me, and for a moment it felt like we were us again, the couple who slow danced at barbecues, who renovated a house with our bare hands, who knew each other's rhythms like our own heartbeats. I didn't tell her about the kitchen renovation that would happen while we were gone. Sam Reeves, my contractor buddy, had it all planned out. Demo would start the day we left, and we'd come home to Lisa's dream kitchen, 6-burner Viking range, granite counters, custom cabinets, the works. $48,000 of accumulated overtime and side jobs, all for the look on her face when she saw it. The first 3 days in Maui were perfect. We snorkeled in crystal clear water, watching sea turtles glide past like ancient spirits. We hiked through bamboo forests to hidden waterfalls. We made love for the first time in 2 months, windows open to the ocean breeze, the sound of waves covering our sounds. I missed this, Lisa said, tracing patterns on my chest as we lay in bed. I missed us. Me too. When we get home, things will be different, right? You'll work less? We'll spend more time together? I promise, I said, thinking about the kitchen that would be waiting for her, how happy it would make her, how it would fix everything. On the 4th day, Sam called. Michael, we've got a problem. His voice was stressed, tight. We opened up the wall between the kitchen and dining room like you wanted, but there's a load-bearing beam that's completely rotted through. Carpenter ants, from the looks of it. If we don't address this now, you're looking at potential structural failure. The whole back of the house could come down. My stomach dropped. How bad? Bad. We need to sister in new beams, possibly pour new footings. It's a big job, and I need your signature on the change orders for insurance. The city inspector won't let us proceed without your approval in person. Can't you just email them? Not for structural work. City requires wet signatures for anything load-bearing. If you want us to continue, you need to be here within 24 hours. Otherwise, I have to pull my guys for the Jacobson job, and we won't be able to get back to you for at least 3 weeks. I looked at Lisa, asleep beside me, her face peaceful for the first time in months. 3 more days in paradise, then home to her dream kitchen. That was the plan. I'll catch a red-eye tonight, I told Sam. But don't tell anyone. I want the kitchen to still be a surprise. You're leaving your vacation to deal with this? It's for Lisa. It has to be perfect. I left her a note on hotel stationery. Emergency at work. Had to fly back but will return ASAP. Enjoy the spa, order room service. I love you. May. I kissed her forehead. She murmured something but didn't wake, and caught a taxi to the airport. The flight was miserable. Middle seat between a man who snored and a woman who talked on her phone until the flight attendant made her stop. 6 hours of cramped discomfort, my mind racing with contractor problems and permit issues. I landed at 2:47 a.m. and drove straight home. I parked down the street, old habit from when I'd come home late and didn't want to wake Lisa with the garage door. The house was dark except for a soft glow from our bedroom window. Had I left a light on? We sometimes did that for security when we traveled. Walking up the driveway, I noticed Connor's Audi parked where I usually parked. My first thought was that something had happened to the kids, that there'd been an emergency. I quickened my pace, fumbling for my keys. The front door opened silently. I'd fixed that squeaky hinge last month. The living room stopped me cold. Candles everywhere like someone had robbed a Yankee Candle store. 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, one still half full of red wine. A man's jacket draped over my recliner. Connor's jacket, the expensive leather one Patricia had bought him for Christmas. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. Why would Connor be here? Why the candles? Why? Then I heard it. A laugh from upstairs. Lisa's laugh, but different. Throaty. Followed by Connor's voice, low and rumbling. My legs carried me up the stairs without conscious thought. Each step felt like moving through quicksand. The wedding photos on the wall watched me pass. Lisa in white, me in my only suit, both of us young and stupid and full of hope. Connor's smile in the best man photo seemed sinister now, like he'd been planning this even then. The bedroom door was cracked open. I could see them in the mirror first, a reflection that my brain refused to process because it was so impossible, so wrong that it couldn't exist in the same universe where I'd worked 16-hour days to build Lisa her dream kitchen. They were in our bed. The bed my grandfather had built as a wedding gift for my parents, made from oak he'd harvested from his own land. The bed where Lisa and I had tried for 2 years to make a baby. The bed where we'd spent lazy Sunday mornings doing crossword puzzles and drinking coffee. Connor was behind her, his hands in her hair, and the sounds, God, the sounds were worse than the visual. Because Lisa was making noises I'd never heard her make, saying things I'd never heard her say. Oh God, Connor. That's when she saw me in the mirror. Our eyes met in the reflection, and for a moment that lasted forever, nobody moved. Then chaos. Connor scrambled backward, falling off the bed in his haste, grabbing for his clothes while stammering. Michael! Jesus, we didn't mean... Shut up, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from underwater. Lisa pulled the sheet around herself. The Egyptian cotton sheets she'd insisted we needed. That cost $300 that we'd bought with overtime money, and stared at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Not guilt. Not shame. Defiance. How long? I asked. Does it matter? She responded, lifting her chin. How? Long. 5 years. The room tilted. The floor seemed to shift under my feet. 5 years. The entire time I'd been saving for her kitchen. Every overtime shift. Every weekend side job. Every night I'd come home exhausted and fallen asleep before we could talk. 5 years. 5 years, she continued, her voice gaining strength like she'd been rehearsing this speech. 5 years of watching you work yourself to death for a stupid kitchen I mentioned once at dinner. 5 years of you being too tired to talk to me, too focused on overtime to notice me. Connor noticed me. I was doing it for you. My voice cracked like I was 16 again. I never asked you to. I asked you to be present, to be here, to be my husband, not some ghost who stumbles in at 10 p.m. and falls asleep in his work clothes. Connor was here. Connor listened. Connor saw me. Connor tried to speak. Michael, listen, it just happened. 5 years is not just happened, I said. 5 years is 10,000 choices to betray me. We didn't plan it, Connor said, finally finding his boxers and pulling them on. After Patricia and I started having problems. You've been having problems since the day you married her because you can't keep it in your pants. That's not... Get out. My voice was calm now, deadly calm. Both of you, get dressed and get out of my house. It's my house too, Lisa said. Tonight, it's mine. Get out. They dressed in silence. Connor couldn't look at me, kept his eyes on the floor as he pulled on his jeans, his shirt, those expensive Italian shoes Patricia had bought him. Lisa maintained that defiance, moving slowly, deliberately, like she was the wronged party here. We need to talk about this, she said, now dressed in a robe I'd bought her for Christmas. We will, but not tonight. Not while you smell like my brother. She flinched at that, the first crack in her armor. They left together, Connor's Audi starting up in my driveway, my spot, he'd parked in my spot, and then they were gone, leaving me alone in a house that suddenly felt like a crime scene. I sat on the floor of my bedroom until dawn, staring at the bed I'd never sleep in again. The sheets were tangled, the pillows scattered. On the nightstand, Lisa's reading glasses sat next to a book about teaching methods, a bookmark 3/4 through. Such a normal detail in such an abnormal moment. My phone buzzed. Sam, texting about the beam situation. I almost laughed. The house was falling apart in more ways than one. When the sun finally came up, painting the bedroom walls the soft yellow Lisa had chosen, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Sam. Continue with the renovation, I said, but I need to make some changes to the plans. Everything okay? You sound, just need some changes. I'll email you the new specs. The second call was to David Martinez, a lawyer who'd hired me to build a deck 2 summers ago. We'd become friendly, and he'd mentioned he did family law. David, it's Michael Garrison. I need to see you today. It's Saturday, Mike. I know. It's an emergency. My wife. I need a divorce lawyer. A pause. Come by at noon. We'll talk. The third call was to Patricia. It was early, but I knew she'd be up. She always did morning yoga on Saturdays. Michael? She sounded surprised. Aren't you in Hawaii? I need to talk to you. It's about Connor. A longer pause. I'll meet you at the Riverside Cafe in an hour. Patricia was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a cup of coffee and a knowing look. She was wearing yoga clothes, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked tired. 5 years, I said without preamble as I sat down. Connor and Lisa, 5 years. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. I knew he was cheating. I didn't know it was with Lisa. You knew. I'm a lawyer, Michael. I noticed things. Late nights that didn't match his calendar. Charges on the credit card for restaurants I never went to. The way he'd shower the moment he got home. She opened her eyes. I thought it was his secretary, or maybe that bartender at O'Malley's who always flirts with him. It was Lisa, my Lisa. I'm sorry. She reached across the table, touched my hand briefly. That's worse. That's so much worse. What do I do? You document everything. You protect yourself financially. You get a good lawyer. Do you have one? David Martinez. He's excellent. Handled my friend's divorce. Took her cheating ex to the cleaners. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to send you some things. Screenshots of Connor's spending, calendar entries that don't match up. I've been building a file for 2 years, just in case. You were planning to divorce him? I was waiting for the kids to be older. But this changes things. Her lawyer face slipped on, cold and calculating. There's a morality clause in our divorce decree. If Connor cohabitates or exposes the children to an inappropriate relationship, he loses custody rights and alimony gets reinstated. He brought the kids to our house while I was working. Lisa would help Emma with homework while Connor was there. Send me any evidence you have. Photos, videos, anything. I can do better than that. I told her about the renovation, about the smart home system I was having Sam install. Cameras in every room except the bathrooms. All legal, all admissible. Patricia smiled for the first time, and it was sharp enough to cut glass. Connor always thought he was the smart one. Let's show him otherwise. The meeting with David Martinez was illuminating. His office was in an old Victorian downtown, all dark wood and leather chairs. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. California is a no-fault divorce state, he said when I finished. The adultery doesn't affect asset division, but it can affect spousal support, and more importantly, we can make a case for waste of marital assets if Connor has been living there, benefiting from your investment without contributing. He's been there almost every night for 3 months, maybe longer. Good. Document everything. The smart home system is genius, by the way. Completely legal since you're on the deed and gave notice about surveillance. Just make sure those little signs are posted. What about the house? Community property. You'll likely have to sell and split the proceeds. Unless... He tapped his pen against the pad. Is she contributing to the mortgage? She hasn't paid a dime in 8 years. We had an arrangement. I'd handle the mortgage and utilities. She'd handle groceries and her own expenses. Get me bank statements going back as far as you can. If we can show you've been the sole financial support for the house, we might be able to argue for a larger share or exclusive use until the divorce is final. What about Connor? That's Patricia's department. But from what you've told me, he's in violation of multiple legal agreements. This is going to get ugly for him. I moved out that day, but not in the way Lisa expected. I rented a small apartment across town, 1 bedroom, month-to-month lease. When I went back to the house to pack some things, Lisa was there. She'd changed the sheets, I noticed. The candles were gone. Everything looked normal except for the fact that nothing would ever be normal again. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't. Not yet. I need space to process this." "For how long?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe months." Relief flashed across her face before she could hide it. "I understand. Take all the time you need." "The renovation continues," I said. "It's already paid for. Might as well finish it." "Michael, don't. Just don't." I packed a bag with clothes, toiletries, my laptop. As I was leaving, I saw Connor's phone charger still plugged into the wall by what used to be my side of the bed. I left it there. Let him come get it himself. The renovation continued, but with significant changes. Every design choice Lisa had made over the years, every picture she'd torn from magazines and taped to our refrigerator, every Pinterest board she'd made me look at, I reversed them all. "You sure about this?" Sam asked when I sent him the new specifications. "This is different from what we discussed." "I'm sure. Basic everything. But I want the smart home system as we discussed. Full coverage. Cameras in every room? Except bathrooms? And Sam? Make them discreet, nearly invisible?" "You got it, boss." Within a week, Connor had essentially moved in. I watched it all on my phone through the security system app. His clothes in my closet, his coffee mug in my kitchen, his feet on my coffee table while he watched my TV. They were bold about it, too. Making out in the kitchen while dinner burned on the stove. Connor walking around in his boxers like he owned the place. Lisa wearing the lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary, the red set that had been too uncomfortable when I'd given it to her. I documented everything. Every kiss, every overnight stay, every time the kids were there witnessing their father with their aunt. The footage went to David and Patricia, building our cases. "This is gold," David said, reviewing the files. "He's literally living there rent-free while you're paying for everything. And these timestamps showing him there during work hours? He's supposed to be at the dealership. His employer might be interested in this." "No," I said. "Not yet. Let him keep thinking he's getting away with it." Patricia was building her own case. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for November 15th. The divorce proceedings would start November 20th. Everything was timed perfectly. But the real beauty was in the details. See, Connor had a drinking problem. Not admitted, not addressed, but obvious to anyone who paid attention. 2 DUIs in college, a tendency to get sloppy at family gatherings, a medicine cabinet full of hangover cures. The security cameras caught him drinking beer for breakfast, taking shots while Lisa was at work, passing out on the couch at 3 in the afternoon. Patricia subpoenaed his employee records from the dealership. 17 sick days in the past 3 months. Multiple complaints from customers about alcohol on his breath. A warning letter from HR that he'd never mentioned. Meanwhile, Lisa was starting to crack. Teaching third graders while maintaining an affair is exhausting. She was making mistakes at work, forgetting parent conferences, losing student homework, showing up late. Her principal, Dr. Rodriguez, called me one day. "Michael, I'm concerned about Lisa. She seems distracted. Is everything okay at home?" "We're going through some things," I said carefully. "I see. Well, if there's anything the school can do." "Actually, there might be. Lisa's been under a lot of stress. Maybe someone should review her lesson plans, make sure she's meeting state standards." A pause. That's an unusual request from a spouse. "I'm worried about her. And the kids she teaches. They deserve her best." "I'll look into it." October turned into November. The leaves changed, fell, were raked into piles that Connor and Lisa jumped in like teenagers, laughing and kissing in my backyard while I watched on my phone from my empty apartment. My family started asking questions. My parents, who lived 2 hours north, wanted to know why I was missing Sunday dinners. "Work," I lied. "Big project." My sister Rachel, calling from Seattle, was more direct. "Lisa posted pictures from a weekend trip to wine country. You're not in any of them, but someone's arm is around her in one shot. Male arm. What's going on?" "It's complicated." "Michael, is she cheating on you?" It's complicated, I repeated. I'm flying out. Don't. Not yet. Wait until Thanksgiving. What happens at Thanksgiving? Justice. The custody hearing came first. November 15th, a Thursday that felt like the first day of winter. The courtroom was small, windowless, fluorescent lights making everyone look sick. Connor showed up in his best suit, the one he wore to weddings and funerals. Patricia wore a conservative black dress that screamed responsible parent. I sat in the back, trying to be invisible. Connor's lawyer went first, arguing that the relationship with Lisa was serious, committed, that they planned to marry once the divorces were final. Your Honor, he said, my client has found love after a difficult divorce. Surely that shouldn't cost him his children. Then Patricia's lawyer, Bethany Coleman, stood up. She was small, maybe 5'2", but her presence filled the room. Your Honor, we'd like to present video evidence of Mr. Garrison's living situation and behavior around the minor children. The first video was Connor and Lisa kissing in the kitchen while Emma did homework 6 feet away. The timestamp showed 3:47 p.m. on a school day. Connor was supposed to be at work. The second was Connor, visibly intoxicated, trying to help Tyler with a Lego set and knocking it over, pieces scattering while the boy cried. The third was the killer, Connor and Lisa in the pool, hands all over each other while both kids played in the shallow end. You could hear Emma ask, "Why is Daddy kissing Aunt Lisa?" And Connor responding, "Because Uncle Michael doesn't understand what love is." The judge, Harmon Kurtychek was her name, according to the nameplate, looked disgusted. Mr. Garrison, she said, you signed a custody agreement with a clear morality clause. Not only have you violated that clause, but you've done so with your brother's wife, in your brother's home, while exposing your minor children to highly inappropriate behavior. Connor tried to speak, but his lawyer touched his arm, stopping him. Furthermore, the judge continued, these videos show you intoxicated during your custodial time, discussing adult matters with minor children, and engaging in conduct that could be considered parental alienation against Mr. Michael Garrison, who I understand has been a significant figure in these children's lives. He has, Your Honor, Patricia's lawyer said. Mr. Michael Garrison has been the primary male role model for both children, attending school events, helping with homework, and providing stability while their father engaged in this affair. I've seen enough. Temporary full custody is awarded to Mrs. Patricia Garrison. Mr. Connor Garrison will have supervised visitation only to be reviewed in 6 months pending completion of alcohol counseling and parenting classes. Connor's face went white. Lisa, sitting in the gallery, reached for his hand. He jerked away. Outside the courthouse, Patricia found me by my truck. Thank you, she said simply. I didn't do it for you. I know, but thank you anyway. She paused. There's more. The alimony issue. My lawyer found something interesting in our original divorce decree. What? A cohabitation clause. If Connor cohabitates with another partner, alimony resumes. He owes me $24,000 in back payments, plus $2,000 a month going forward. Can he afford that? Not even close. She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. He's going to learn what it really costs to destroy a family. My divorce hearing was the Monday before Thanksgiving, November 20th. The courtroom was bigger this time, newer, with windows looking out at downtown. David was brilliant, laying out the financial records like a roadmap of betrayal. Your Honor, my client has paid 100% of the mortgage for 8 years, 100% of the utilities, 100% of the property taxes. Mrs. Garrison has contributed nothing to the maintenance of the marital home, yet she's allowed her paramour, Mr. Connor Garrison, the plaintiff's own brother, to live there rent-free for the past 4 months. The judge, Anthony Vega, according to his nameplate, reviewed the bank statements. Mrs. Garrison, is this accurate? Lisa stood, still defiant. Michael wanted to handle the finances. It was our arrangement. That's not what I asked. Have you contributed financially to the mortgage, utilities, or property taxes? No, but... And is Mr. Connor Garrison currently living in the home? He stays with me sometimes. Yes or no, Mrs. Garrison? Does Mr. Connor Garrison currently reside in the marital home? A pause. Yes. Is he contributing to the mortgage or utilities? He's between jobs. Yes or no? No. Judge Vega looked at the security footage David had submitted. Not the intimate stuff. That wasn't necessary. Just times, tamps showing Connor there 24 hours a day, his belongings scattered throughout the house, him answering the door for deliveries. I'm granting the plaintiff's motion for exclusive use of the marital home. Mrs. Garrison, you have 48 hours to vacate the premises. Mr. Connor Garrison is to remove himself immediately, as he has no legal standing whatsoever. Lisa's lawyer tried to object, but Judge Vega cut him off. Counselor, your client has been living rent-free in a home paid for entirely by Mr. Michael Garrison while conducting an affair with his brother. She's lucky I'm giving her 48 hours instead of 48 minutes. Thanksgiving was 3 days later. I'd invited my parents, who were devastated but supporting me. Rachel flew in from Seattle with her husband and kids. Patricia brought Emma and Tyler. We held it at my small apartment, cramped but warm, the dining table extended with a card table, mismatched chairs borrowed from neighbors. It's cozy, my mom said, trying to be positive. It's temporary, I assured her. Where's Daddy? Tyler asked Patricia halfway through dinner. Daddy had other plans, Patricia said smoothly. Connor and Lisa, I learned later, had shown up at the house expecting to host Thanksgiving. Lisa had invited her sister and her family, telling them everything was fine, that Michael and I were just working through some issues. Instead, they found eviction notices taped to the door and a locksmith changing the locks. Lisa's sister, Maria, who hadn't heard about the affair, was mortified when Connor answered the door. Where's Michael? She'd asked. He's not here, Connor said. Why are you here? Where's Patricia? The truth came out in the driveway, Lisa trying to explain, Maria's voice rising with each revelation. Maria left with her family before even entering the house, shouting something in Spanish that I was told translated roughly to, "You disgust me." Connor and Lisa spent Thanksgiving in a motel 6 off the highway, eating Chinese takeout from the only place open. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember that cohabitation clause Patricia mentioned? Her lawyer had done more digging. The alimony agreement specified that if Connor cohabitated with another partner, not only would alimony resume, but it would include interest on any months missed during cohabitation. 4 months of cohabitation at $2,000 a month, plus 18% annual interest compounded monthly. Connor owed Patricia $32,000 immediately, plus ongoing support. He called me crying, Patricia told me the week after Thanksgiving. Actually crying, said he couldn't pay, that Lisa's teacher salary wouldn't cover it, that they could barely afford an apartment. What did you tell him? I told him to get a second job, or a third. I don't care if he has to work 24 hours a day. My kids deserve that support. The house sold in January. Quick sale, price to move, because neither Lisa nor I could afford to buy the other out. After the mortgage was paid and realtor fees deducted, we each walked away with $60,000. Lisa needed every penny. She'd found an apartment in a complex by the highway, the kind with thin walls and a broken security gate. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, view of the parking lot. Connor moved in with her because he couldn't afford his own place anymore. I used my $60,000 to start Garrison Security and Construction. My tagline, "Know who's in your home," might have been petty, but it resonated with people. Turns out there's a big market for security systems installed by someone who learned the hard way why you need them. Sam came to work for me immediately, bringing 3 of his best guys. You sure about this? He asked on our first day in the new office, a small space in an industrial park. Never been sure of anything. That tagline, though, he laughed. It's brutal. It's honest. We were booked solid within 2 months. Word spread quickly. Social media is good for something. And soon I was getting calls from people who'd heard my story, wanted to protect themselves from their own potential betrayals. Patricia and I became actual friends during this time. Coffee every Wednesday, comparing notes on the kids, on work, on moving forward. She was seeing James, a prosecutor she'd met at a legal conference. He's everything Connor wasn't, she told me one Wednesday in March. Stable, honest, present. I'm happy for you. What about you? Dating anyone? Not yet. Still processing. Processing or planning? What do you mean? Michael, I know that look. You're not done with them yet. She was right. The eviction and financial pressure were just the beginning. See, Connor's drinking had gotten worse. Much worse. The stress of losing his kids, owing Patricia money he didn't have, living in a crappy apartment with a woman he'd destroyed his life for, it was eating him alive. I had a friend who worked at the Mercedes dealership where Connor was supposedly still employed. Turned out Connor had been encouraged to resign after multiple customer complaints, and that video I'd accidentally sent to his manager showing him day drinking in my kitchen when he was supposed to be at work. He'd found another job at a Toyota dealership across town, but the pay was half what he'd been making. Commission only, no base salary. In the economy where people were keeping their cars longer, he was lucky to sell one car a week. Lisa wasn't doing much better. The review Dr. Rodriguez had conducted found significant deficiencies in her lesson planning and classroom management. She wasn't fired. Unions are strong, but she was put on a performance improvement plan. Extra observations, mandatory professional development, weekly meetings with administrators. She looks exhausted, one of her former teacher friends told me when I ran into her at the grocery store. Like she's aged 5 years and 6 months. Stress will do that, I said neutrally. Michael, what really happened? She won't talk about it, but everyone knows something big went down. Ask her about Connor. The friend's eyes widened. Connor? Your brother Connor? 5 years, I said, and walked away. By April, the gossip mill was in full swing. Lisa couldn't go anywhere without whispers following. The grocery store, the gas station, school events. Everyone knew she was the teacher who'd slept with her husband's brother for 5 years, while the husband worked overtime to build her dream kitchen. Connor wasn't faring any better. The Mercedes dealership community is small and gossipy. Everyone knew why he'd been let go. His sales at Toyota were abysmal. Who wants to buy a car from a man who betrayed his own brother? They started fighting in public. The thin walls of their apartment meant neighbors heard everything. Police were called twice. Once for a noise complaint, once for a domestic disturbance when Lisa threw a plate at Connor's head. They're miserable, Patricia told me over coffee in May. Connor's mom called me, we still talk sometimes, and said he showed up at her house at 2 a.m. drunk, crying about how he'd ruined his life. What did she say? She told him he'd made his bed and now had to lie in it. Then she shut the door in his face. Harsh. She's your mom too, Michael. She's furious with him. I hadn't spoken to my parents much since everything came out. They were supportive, but devastated that their sons were now enemies, their family torn apart. You should call them, Patricia said. They miss you. I will, when I'm ready. By June, a year after Hawaii, Connor and Lisa were trapped. They couldn't afford to break up. 2 apartments, 2 sets of bills, impossible on their combined income. But staying together was killing them slowly. I saw them once at the grocery store. Lisa was comparing prices on pasta, putting the name brand back and grabbing generic. Connor was in the beer aisle, staring at the craft section before grabbing the cheapest case available. They looked like ghosts of their former selves. Lisa saw me first. Our eyes met across the produce section. She looked like she wanted to say something, opened her mouth, then closed it and hurried away. Connor never even looked up. You know what the ironic part is? Patricia said one day in July. They got exactly what they wanted. Each other. No sneaking around, no hiding, no stolen moments. Just each other. All day, every day, in that awful apartment, counting pennies and accusations. Careful what you wish for. Exactly. The business continued to grow. I hired more crews, expanded to residential and commercial. We got a contract with the city to install security systems in all municipal buildings. The local news did a feature on us. Local entrepreneur turns personal tragedy into security empire. I declined to be interviewed on camera, but the story ran anyway. Someone had leaked the basics of my situation. Betrayed husband uses security cameras to catch cheating wife. Starts security company. It was picked up by national news aggregators. My website crashed from the traffic. "You're famous," Sam said, showing me the online comments. Most were supportive. Some criticized the surveillance, but everyone had an opinion. "I just wanted to build kitchens," I said. "Now you build peace of mind. That's worth more." He was right. Every installation, every camera, every security system was a small victory. Not revenge anymore, but recovery. Building something from destruction. Rachel visited in August, bringing her kids for a week before school started. "You look good," she said, surveying my new house, a 3-bedroom I'd bought and was slowly renovating. Happy. Getting there. And them? Still together. Still miserable. Good. We were sitting on the back deck I'd built, watching her kids play in the yard. The sun was setting, painting everything golden. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The cameras, the revenge, all of it?" "No. They made their choices. I just made sure there were consequences." "But 5 years, Michael. 5 years of lies. How did you not see it?" "I was looking at the future instead of the present. Building something that didn't exist instead of protecting what did." "That's very philosophical." "I've had time to think." That night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Lisa. "I know you won't respond to this, and I don't blame you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. The kitchen, the overtime, all of it. You were building something for us. I was so focused on what I didn't have that I destroyed what I did. Connor and I are getting what we deserve. I'm sorry. Not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know." I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. Apologies don't rebuild trust any more than generic pasta tastes like the real thing. September brought new developments. Connor had been arrested for DUI, his third. Patricia's lawyer made sure the judge knew about the custody situation, the alcohol counseling he was supposed to be attending, but wasn't. Connor lost his license for a year, minimum. Without a license, he couldn't sell cars. The Toyota dealership let him go. He got a job at a call center, making $12 an hour selling insurance to people who didn't want it. Lisa's performance improvement plan at school wasn't going well. Parents were requesting their children be moved to different classes. Dr. Rodriguez called me one day. "Michael, I'm calling as a courtesy. Lisa has submitted your name as an emergency contact. I'm her ex-husband." "I'm aware. But she has no one else. Her sister won't speak to her. Her parents are deceased. She lists you." "What's the emergency?" "She collapsed at school. Exhaustion," the paramedic said. "She's at Riverside General." I didn't go. Patricia did, out of some sense of obligation or curiosity. "She looks terrible," Patricia reported. "Thin, gray, like she's being eaten from the inside. Connor was there, reeking of alcohol at 2 in the afternoon. They had a fight in the hospital room. Security had to escort him out. They're destroying each other. Slowly but surely." October marked 18 months since Hawaii. The business was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. We'd expanded to 3 cities, had 40 employees, were looking at franchising opportunities. I was dating Jennifer, a lawyer from David's firm who understood my baggage and didn't care. "You turned catastrophe into opportunity," she said over dinner one night. "That's attractive." It was that, or let it destroy me. Most people pick destruction. It's easier. Not for me. "No," she agreed. "Not for you." Halloween came with its own drama. Connor showed up at Patricia's house, drunk, demanding to see the kids even though it wasn't his supervised visitation day. Patricia called the police. He spent the night in jail. "The kids were terrified," Patricia told me. "Tyler was crying. Emma locked herself in her room. They don't want to see him anymore." Can you blame them? No, but it's sad. He was a good father once. Before all this, he made his choices. I know. But watching someone self-destruct is still hard. November brought the second anniversary of D-Day, as I'd come to think of it. Jennifer and I were officially together, planning a trip to Europe for Christmas. The business had just landed a contract with a major hotel chain. Life was good. Then Lisa called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Michael? Her voice was small, broken. I'm sorry to call. I didn't know who else to call. What do you want, Lisa? Connor's in the hospital. Liver failure? They say it's bad. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sorrow, just nothing. Why are you calling me? Because you're his brother. Because despite everything, you're the only family he has who might still care. I don't. Michael. He slept with my wife for 5 years, in my bed. In the bed my grandfather built, while I worked myself to death to build you a kitchen. I don't care if his liver is failing. I don't care if he dies. Silence. I understand, she finally said. I'm sorry. For everything. I hung up. Connor didn't die. He recovered, barely, but the damage was done. He needed regular treatment, expensive treatment. Treatment that a $12 an hour call center job couldn't cover. Lisa took a second job tutoring online in the evenings. Connor picked up weekend shifts at a grocery store, stocking shelves. They were working themselves to death just to survive, just to pay for the consequences of their choices. It's poetic, Patricia said when she heard. They wanted excitement, passion, life. Now all they have is work and medical bills and each other. Christmas came. Jennifer and I went to Paris, stayed in a beautiful hotel, walked along the Seine at midnight. I posted photos on social media, not to hurt Lisa and Connor, just to live my life. But I knew they'd see them. Everyone sees everything now. Rachel called on New Year's Eve. Connor called Mom, begging for money. Said he might lose the apartment. What did she say? No, Dad wanted to help, but Mom said Connor made his choices. Good for her? Michael, he's still our brother. No, he was my brother. Now he's just someone who destroyed my life and is living with the consequences. January marked 2 years since the house sold. I drove by it one day, curious. The new owners had painted it yellow, Lisa's least favorite color. They'd ripped out the kitchen I'd renovated, put in something modern and sterile. Good. It needed to be someone else's house now. The business kept growing. We opened offices in Los Angeles and San Francisco. I bought a bigger house, nothing mansion-like, but beautiful. 4 bedrooms, a workshop, a kitchen with a 6-burner Viking range that I never would have bought for Lisa. Jennifer moved in. We cooked together, laughed together, built something real together. No overtime, no exhaustion, no saving for a future that might not come. Just presence, just now, just us. One day in February, Patricia called with news. Connor's back in the hospital, liver again. It's worse this time. Okay. Michael, he's dying. We all are. He wants to see you. No. He wants to apologize. Too late. Patricia sighed. I understand. But I thought you should know. Connor didn't die that time either. But he came close enough to scare Lisa into action. She filed for separation. Not divorce, they couldn't afford lawyers, but separation. The irony was perfect. After destroying 2 marriages to be together, they couldn't even stand to live together anymore. But they also couldn't afford to live apart. So they stayed in that apartment, Connor on the couch, Lisa in the bedroom, 2 ghosts haunting each other. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen, Patricia told me. They hate each other now, genuinely hate each other. But they're trapped. They trapped themselves. True, but it's still sad. March brought unexpected news. Lisa's father, who I'd been told was deceased, wasn't dead. He'd been estranged, living in Portland. He died for real this time, leaving Lisa a small inheritance, $50,000. She could have used it to leave Connor, start fresh. Instead, she paid his medical bills, caught up on rent, bought a reliable car. She chose to stay trapped rather than admit the last 3 years had been for nothing. It's classic sunk cost fallacy, Jennifer said when I told her. They've invested so much in this disaster that walking away feels like admitting it was all a waste. It was all a waste. We know that, but they can't admit it. If they do, then all that destruction was for nothing. April brought Emma's dance recital. Connor was supposed to have supervised visitation that day, was supposed to attend. He didn't show. Again. I was there, front row, recording on my phone. Tyler next to me, playing with the program. Patricia on my other side with James. We looked like a family. A strange, reconfigured family, but a family nonetheless. Uncle Michael, Emma said after the recital, still in her costume. Why doesn't Daddy come to my things anymore? I don't know, sweetheart. Is it because he's sick? Something like that? Is he sick because he did bad things? Kids understand more than we give them credit for. Sometimes people make choices that make them sick, yes. Like when he kissed Aunt Lisa and made everyone sad? Yes, like that. She hugged me then, tight, and I realized that Connor had lost more than custody. He'd lost his children's love, their respect, their desire to have him in their lives, all for 5 years of sneaking around with his brother's wife. May brought the 3rd anniversary of Hawaii. 3 years since my life exploded and rebuilt itself. The business was valued at $8 million. I was engaged to Jennifer. The kids called me Uncle Mike and spent weekends at our house. I was happy, genuinely, surprisingly happy, genuinely. Lisa texted that day. 3 years. Was it worth it? I didn't respond, but I thought about it. Was the revenge worth it? Was the destruction worth it? Was any of it worth it? Yes, because it led me here. To truth, to honesty, to a life built on solid foundations instead of lies. June brought news through the gossip network. Connor had been hospitalized again. This time, he didn't recover fully. He was weak, needed a cane to walk, couldn't work even his minimum wage jobs. Lisa was supporting them both on a teacher's salary and tutoring money. They'd moved to an even smaller apartment, a studio in a building known for bedbugs and broken air conditioning. From a dream kitchen to bedbugs, Patricia said. That's quite a fall. They jumped. No one pushed them. You helped them fall, though. No, I just stopped catching them. July brought a surprise. My parents wanted to have a family reunion. Everyone invited, including Connor. I declined. He's your brother, my mother pleaded over the phone. He was. Now he's just someone who hurt me in the worst way possible. Michael, forgiveness isn't required. I've moved on, Mom. I've built a good life, but that doesn't mean I have to let him back into it. The reunion happened without me. Rachel sent photos. Connor looked terrible, thin, gray, aged 20 years and 3. Lisa wasn't invited, but Connor talked about her, apparently, how she was all he had left, how they were trying to make it work. He actually said they were trying to make it work, Rachel told me, incredulous. Like it's a real relationship and not just mutual destruction. They have to believe that. Otherwise, what was it all for? August brought the news that finally ended it. Lisa was pregnant. Patricia called me, voice shocked. She's 41. Connor's sick. They can barely feed themselves. And she's pregnant. That's insane. Connor's convinced it's a sign, that they're meant to be together, that this baby will fix everything. A baby never fixes anything. Try telling them that. I felt something then. Not satisfaction, not anger, but pity. Deep, genuine pity. They were bringing a child into their disaster, another innocent victim of their choices. Jennifer was more practical. That poor kid, born into poverty and dysfunction because 2 people couldn't keep their hands off each other. It's not the kid's fault. No, but they'll suffer for it anyway. September brought the final act. Connor collapsed at the grocery store where he was working. Major liver failure. He needed a transplant or he'd die within months. Lisa called me again. I know you hate him, she said without preamble. But you're a match. You're brothers. You could save him. No. Michael, please, I'm pregnant. This baby needs a father. Should have thought of that before sleeping with my brother for 5 years. You can't be that cruel. Watch me. He's dying. Good. I hung up. Good. Then I blocked her number, Connor's number, and anyone else who might try to guilt me into saving the man who destroyed my life. October came with lawyers. Connor and Lisa, desperate, tried to legally compel me to be tested as a donor. David shut that down quickly. You can't be forced to donate an organ, he told me. Not even to save a sibling. They're grasping at straws. Let them grasp. Connor died on November 15th, exactly 4 years after losing custody of his kids. He died alone. Lisa was at work, unable to afford missing a shift. The hospital called her, then called Patricia as the last emergency contact. Patricia called me. He's gone. I felt nothing. A blank space where emotion should be. Okay. The funeral is Saturday. I won't be there. Michael. He died to me 4 years ago. This is just paperwork. I didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Emma or Tyler. Patricia went, she said, for closure. My parents went, devastated. Rachel flew in from Seattle. Lisa gave a eulogy, apparently. Talked about their great love story, how they'd found each other despite the odds, how Connor was the love of her life. It was delusional, Rachel told me later. Everyone knew the truth. The church was almost empty. Just family and a few people who felt obligated. Good. She's very pregnant. Due next month. Not my problem. She asked about you, said she wants to talk. No. November ended with Lisa giving birth. A boy. She named him Connor Jr. It's like she's trying to replace him, Patricia said. Remake him. Have the life they destroyed everything to get. How's she managing? She's not. Her sister finally took pity on her, letting her move in. But it's temporary. Maria's husband hates Lisa, barely tolerates the baby. December brought the end of the story, or at least this chapter of it. 5 years after Hawaii, I was in my office, reviewing contracts for our newest expansion, when my assistant knocked. There's a woman here to see you. Lisa Garrison? I almost said no. Then curiosity won. Send her in. She looked ancient. 42 years old, but looking 60. Thin, exhausted, holding a baby carrier with a sleeping infant inside. Hello, Michael. What do you want? To apologize. Really apologize. And to ask for something I have no right to ask for. Which is help, not for me, for him. She gestured to the baby. He's innocent in all this. So were Emma and Tyler. Didn't stop you and Connor from destroying their family. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to be better than Connor and I were. To not let an innocent child suffer for our sins. I looked at the baby, Connor Jr., dark hair like his father, like his uncle, like me. What kind of help? A job. I'll work for your company. Receptionist, filing, cleaning, anything. I just need steady income and health insurance for the baby. You're a teacher. Was. I resigned. Couldn't handle the performance plans and the parent complaints and the judgment. Plus, with the baby. She trailed off, adjusting the blanket around the sleeping infant. Please, Michael. Not for me. For him. I thought about it. About revenge and justice and moving forward. About innocent children paying for their parents' sins. About being better than the people who hurt you. No, I said. Her face crumpled. But, I continued, I'll set up a trust for the kid. Education only. College, trade school, whatever he needs when he's older. He didn't choose this situation. Michael, that's the offer. Take it or leave it. And Lisa, don't contact me again. Ever. She left crying, pushing the stroller with her nephew, my nephew, out into the December rain. Jennifer asked me that night if I regretted it. Not helping Lisa? No. Setting up the trust? Also no. You're helping Connor's son. I'm helping an innocent kid who didn't ask to be born into disaster. There's a difference. You're a good man, Michael Garrison. I'm a man who learned the hard way that you can't save people who don't want to be saved. But you can sometimes save the innocent bystanders. It's been 6 years now since Hawaii. The business is nationwide, valued at 30 million. Jennifer and I have a daughter, Sophie, who just turned 2. Emma's in high school, wants to be a lawyer like her mom. Tyler's 12, builds things with me in my workshop every weekend. Lisa lives with her sister still, works at a daycare, raises Connor Jr. alone. The trust I set up will pay for his education when he's ready. It's the only connection left between us. Sometimes I drive by the old house, now painted yellow with someone else's dream kitchen inside. I don't feel anything anymore. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction. It's just a house where something ended and something else began. The best revenge, I've learned, isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so beautiful, so solid, so genuinely good that their betrayal becomes nothing more than the catalyst for your transformation. Connor and Lisa wanted passion, excitement, forbidden love. They got poverty, exhaustion, and mutual destruction. They wanted each other more than they wanted stability, family, trust. They got exactly what they prioritized. Me? I wanted to build Lisa a kitchen. Instead, I built an empire. I wanted to save my marriage. Instead, I saved myself. I wanted revenge. Instead, I got redemption. The kitchen that started it all would have cost $48,000. The life I built from its ashes is worth infinitely more. Not in money, though there's that too, but in truth, in trust, in the knowledge that every relationship in my life now is built on solid ground. Connor is dead. Lisa is broken. Their son will grow up without a father, with a mother who destroyed 2 families for a love that turned to poison. He'll have education money from an uncle he'll never know, a small mercy in a harsh world. And me? I'm writing this from my office, looking out at an empire built on security, on protecting people from betrayal, on the simple promise that you should know who's in your home. Jennifer just texted. Sophie took her first steps. Emma sent a photo from her debate tournament. She won. Tyler wants to know if we can build a treehouse this weekend. This is my life now. Not the one I planned, but the one I earned. Built from betrayal, but stronger for it. Created from catastrophe, but beautiful despite its origins. Connor thought he was the smart brother, the charming one, the one who could have anything he wanted. Lisa thought she deserved passion, excitement, something more than a husband who worked overtime. They were both wrong. I was the smart one, smart enough to document betrayal, to demand consequences, to rebuild rather than just revenge. And Lisa? She got her excitement. Every day is exciting when you're struggling to survive, when you're raising a baby alone at 42, when every dollar counts and every day is a battle against the consequences of your choices. The last time I saw her was 6 months ago, purely by accident. I was at the pediatrician's office with Sophie for her 18-month checkup. Lisa was there with Connor Jr., who'd be about 2.5 now. She looked old, worn, defeated. Her clothes were secondhand, her hair gray at the roots where she couldn't afford to color it anymore. Our eyes met across the waiting room. She started to stand, maybe to approach me, but I shook my head once. She sat back down, pulling Connor Jr. closer. The boy looked like his father, like my brother, like me. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same stubborn chin. He was playing with a broken toy from the waiting room basket, making car sounds, oblivious to the weight of history in the room. Sophie toddled over to him, offering her stuffed elephant. He took it solemnly, then offered his broken car in exchange. They played together for 10 minutes while Lisa and I studiously ignored each other, 2 strangers with too much history. When the nurse called Garrison, both Lisa and I started to stand. Old habits. She sat back down quickly, face flushing. Sophie Garrison? The nurse clarified. I picked up my daughter, who waved bye-bye to Connor Jr. He waved back, still clutching her elephant. Keep it, I told him, the only words I'd speak to either of them. As we walked to the exam room, I heard Lisa whisper, Say thank you to the nice man. "Thank you!" Connor Jr. called out. I didn't turn around. Jennifer asked about it that night, noticed I was quiet. Ran into Lisa at the doctor's office. Her and the kid. How was that? Strange, like seeing a ghost. A ghost of a life that could have been. Any regrets? No, just pity. She looks so old, Jen. So tired. So beaten down by life. That's what happens when you bet everything on the wrong horse. Connor wasn't even a horse. He was a disaster waiting to happen. And she was the match that lit the fuse. While I was trying to build her a kitchen. I laughed, but it wasn't bitter anymore. Just ironic. $48,000. That's what started all this. My secret kitchen fund. Best $48,000 you never spent. She was right. That money became the seed capital for the business, which became an empire, which became the life I have now. Patricia remarried James last spring. Beautiful ceremony at a winery in Napa. Emma was maid of honor, Tyler the ring bearer. I gave a toast at the reception. To new beginnings, I said, raising my glass. To learning from the past without being trapped by it. To Patricia and James, who found each other not in spite of the chaos, but because they learned what really matters because of it. Connor wasn't mentioned. His absence was a presence, a shadow of choices and consequences, but we'd all moved on. Even Patricia's parents, who'd initially blamed me for their son's downfall, had come to accept that Connor was the architect of his own destruction. He could have had everything, Patricia's mother said to me at the reception, a little wine-drunk and weepy. Good job, beautiful family, loving brother. He threw it all away for what? For excitement? For your wife? Ex-wife, I corrected gently. Ex-wife. Still. What a waste. Yes, I agreed. It was. The business continues to grow. We're international now. Offices in Vancouver, Mexico City, planning expansion to Europe. The tagline evolved from "Know who's in your home" to "Security through certainty." Less petty, more professional, though the origin story has become industry legend. I speak at security conferences sometimes, tell a sanitized version of my story. The betrayed husband who turned personal tragedy into professional triumph. It always gets a standing ovation. Americans love a comeback story, a phoenix from the ashes narrative. What I don't tell them is the cost. The nights I spent watching security footage of my brother and wife, documenting their betrayal. The family dinners that will never happen again. The parents who lost both sons, one to death, one to justified anger. The children who learned too young that adults can't always be trusted. Rachel calls it the family tax. We all paid for Connor and Lisa's choices, she said during her last visit. You paid with your marriage. Patricia paid with her stability. The kids paid with their innocence. Mom and Dad paid with their family unity. Even I paid, having to explain to everyone why my brothers don't speak anymore. Connor's dead, I reminded her. You know what I mean. Even before he died, you were done with him. He was done with me the first time he touched my wife. I know. I'm not blaming you. I'm just sad about all of it. We were sitting on my deck, watching Sophie play in the yard Jennifer had landscaped. It was beautiful. Professional landscaping, playground equipment, a vegetable garden Sophie liked to help with. Do you think they loved each other? Rachel asked suddenly. Connor and Lisa? Or was it just destruction for destruction's sake? I think they loved the idea of each other. The excitement, the danger, the forbidden nature of it. When that became their everyday reality, when they had to pay bills and deal with illness and face consequences, the love evaporated. So it was never real? Oh, it was real. Real destructive, real selfish, real stupid. But sustainable love? The kind that survives hardship and builds something? No. They were just two broken people breaking everything around them. My phone buzzed. Jennifer, sending a video of Sophie at music class, banging enthusiastically on a drum. Pure joy on her little face. This was real. This was sustainable. This was worth protecting. I should go, Rachel said. Flight's early tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Michael? She paused at the door. Do you ever think about forgiveness? I forgave them a long time ago. Really? Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I forgave them so I could move on. But they're still living with the consequences. That's justice, not revenge. She hugged me then, tight. You're a good man, Michael Garrison. I'm a man who learned from his mistakes. Same thing. After she left, I sat on the deck watching the sunset. Somewhere in the city, Lisa was probably giving Connor Jr. dinner in her sister's cramped house. Somewhere, Patricia and James were enjoying married life. Somewhere, Emma and Tyler were doing homework, growing up, becoming people shaped but not defined by their father's betrayal. The text came at 10 p.m. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Michael, this is Maria, Lisa's sister. Lisa's in the hospital, stress-induced heart problems. She's asking for you. I know you hate her, but she doesn't have anyone else. Please. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I deleted it. Who was that? Jennifer asked, coming to bed. Nobody? Wrong number. She knew I was lying but didn't push. We'd built our relationship on truth, but also on knowing when to let the past stay buried. Lisa recovered, according to the Gossip Network, but barely. Weak heart, the doctors said. Probably wouldn't see 50. Stress, poverty, and heartbreak had aged her body as much as her face. It's like she's dying of a broken heart, Patricia told me when she heard. Literally. Hearts don't break from betrayal. They break from consequences. That's cold, Michael. That's true, Patricia. Christmas came again. Jennifer and I hosted this year. My parents, Rachel and her family, Patricia and James with the kids, Jennifer's family from Ohio. The house was full of laughter, presents, too much food. Remember when we were kids? Rachel said, finding me in the kitchen. Christmas at Mom and Dad's, you and Connor would always fight over who got to put the star on the tree? He usually won. He was taller. You let him win. Maybe. You were a good brother, Michael. Until I wasn't. No, you were a good brother until he wasn't. There's a difference. Emma found us there, showed us her new phone, a Christmas gift from Patricia and James. Uncle Mike, is it true you have cameras everywhere in your house? Not everywhere, just the important places. Why? Because I learned the hard way that you should always know who's in your home. Is that why you started your company? Part of it. Mom says you turned something bad into something good. Your mom's smart. She also says Connor, my dad, would be proud of how successful you are if he could get over being jealous. Kids. They hear everything, understand more than we think. Maybe, I said. But we'll never know. Because he's dead. Yes. Because he drank too much because he was sad about what he did. That's essentially correct. I'm glad you're my uncle, she said suddenly, hugging me. You and Aunt Jennifer and Sophie, you're my real family. Your dad was family too, Emma. He just lost his way. He chose to lose his way. That's what Mom says. Everyone has choices. Wise words from a 15-year-old who'd learned them the hard way. That night, after everyone had gone home and Sophie was asleep, Jennifer and I sat by the fireplace, watching the lights twinkle on the tree. Good day? She asked. Perfect day? No ghosts? No ghosts. They're all resting now. Even Connor? Especially Connor. He's been dead over a year. Time to let him rest. And Lisa? Lisa's living her consequence. That's enough. Is it? I thought about it. Lisa, 43, looking 60, weak heart, no money, raising a toddler alone, dependent on her sister's charity. Working minimum wage at a daycare, coming home exhausted to a child who looked exactly like the man she'd destroyed everything for. No retirement savings, no health insurance worth anything, no future beyond survival. Yes, I said. It's enough. You've won, completely, utterly, in every way possible. This isn't winning. This is living. There's a difference. What's the difference? Winning means someone else has to lose. Living means building something regardless of what anyone else does. I'm not living in opposition to them anymore. I'm just living. She kissed me then, soft and sure. I love you, Michael Garrison. I love you too. Even though I don't care about kitchen renovations? Especially because you don't care about kitchen renovations. We laughed, and it echoed through our beautiful house, past the security cameras that kept us safe, through rooms filled with real love and trust and presence. Somewhere across the city, Lisa was probably lying awake, listening to Connor Jr. breathe, wondering how it all went so wrong. How 5 years of passion became a lifetime of consequence. How the man she'd risked everything for died alone while she grew old before her time. But that wasn't my story anymore. That was hers. My story was here now, in this house built on truth, with this woman who knew my worth wasn't measured in overtime hours, with our daughter sleeping safe upstairs with Emma and Tyler who'd become mine in every way that mattered. The security business was my fortune, but this life, this family, this peace, this was my revenge. Not because it hurt them, but because it healed me. Not because they could see it, but because I could feel it. The best revenge, I learned, isn't living well to spite those who hurt you. It's living so well that you forget they exist at all. It's building something so solid that their betrayal becomes nothing more than the earthquake that tested your foundation and proved it strong. It's reaching a place where someone can text you that your ex-wife is in the hospital, and you can delete it without a second thought, not from cruelty but from closure. Connor's son will grow up without a father, but he'll have an education funded by an uncle he'll never really know. He'll ask about his name, about his father, about why his mother cries sometimes when she thinks he's not looking. Lisa will tell him some sanitized version of the truth, probably painting Connor as a tragic hero and me as the villain who refused to save him. But maybe, when he's older, when he uses that trust fund to go to college or trade school, he'll piece together the real story. He'll understand that his parents' great love was actually great destruction. He'll learn that his uncle, the one his mother doesn't speak to, was the only one who thought to protect his future from his parents' past. Or maybe he won't. Maybe Lisa will poison him against me the way she and Connor poisoned each other. Either way, he'll have a chance at education, at a future, at being better than his parents were. That's my final revenge. Not destroying them, but building something they can never touch, never claim, never ruin. A life so far removed from their chaos that they might as well exist in another universe. The kitchen that started it all, that $48,000 dream, would have been outdated by now anyway. Styles change, appliances break, granite goes out of fashion. But the empire built from its ashes? That's permanent. That's legacy. That's the ultimate response to betrayal. Not just surviving it, but transforming it into something magnificent. 6 years ago, I sat in a rental car outside my house, watching my brother's Audi in my driveway, my life destroyed. Today, I sit in my office, corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city, and feel nothing but gratitude. Not for the betrayal, but for the strength it revealed, the future it created, the truth it uncovered. Connor died thinking he'd won something, that he'd gotten the great love of his life, even if it cost him everything else. Lisa lives knowing she lost everything for someone who couldn't even stay alive long enough to make it worthwhile. They gambled everything on passion and lost to consequence. Me? I bet on myself, on truth, on building rather than destroying. And I won everything that actually matters. The rain is starting again, hammering against my office windows like it did against my truck windshield all those years ago. But I'm not sitting in a driveway anymore, paralyzed by betrayal. I'm sitting in my empire, built from the rubble of what they destroyed, stronger and better than anything they could have imagined. My phone buzzes. Jennifer, texting a photo of Sophie trying on my hard hat at the construction site, her face lit up with joy. Future CEO? She's written. Absolutely, I text back. And in that moment, I realized the ultimate truth. They didn't destroy my life. They freed me from a life that wasn't really mine. They didn't steal my future. They cleared the path for a better one. The best revenge isn't making them suffer. They did that themselves. The best revenge is making their betrayal the best thing that ever happened to you. And it was. God help me, it really was. Because without Connor and Lisa's betrayal, I'd still be working overtime for a kitchen that would never be enough, in a marriage built on shifting sand, for a woman who was looking elsewhere while I was looking ahead. Now I have Jennifer, who looks at me while I'm looking at her. I have Sophie, who will grow up seeing what real love looks like. I have Emma and Tyler, who chose me over blood because I chose them when their blood failed them. I have an empire that employs hundreds and protects thousands. All because two people couldn't keep their hands off each other in my grandfather's bed. The irony is perfect. Their betrayal, meant to fulfill them, emptied them completely. My response, meant to destroy them, built me up instead. In the end, I got the life I was working toward all along. Successful, secure, surrounded by family. I just had to lose the wrong family to find the right one. Connor's dead. Lisa's dying slowly. Their son will grow up fatherless, but not educationless. And me? I'm living. Not in spite of them, not to spite them, but completely independent of them. They're not even footnotes in my story anymore. They're just the match that lit the fire that forged the steel that built the empire. The rain keeps falling, but I don't hear betrayal in its rhythm anymore. I hear possibility, renewal, the constant truth that everything washes clean eventually. Somewhere out there, Lisa is probably looking at this same rain, remembering Hawaii, wondering how paradise became poverty. But that's not my concern anymore. My concern is here, in this life built on truth and consequences fairly applied. This is where the story ends, not with forgiveness or reconciliation, not with dramatic confrontations or deathbed apologies, but with simple, sustainable peace. The kind that comes from knowing you faced the worst, documented it carefully, responded strategically, and built something better from the ruins. Connor wanted my wife. He got her. They wanted each other. They got each other. They wanted passion over stability, excitement over loyalty, the thrill over the foundation. They got exactly what they chose. So did I. And that, more than any revenge, is perfect justice. The empire stands. The family thrives. The future stretches out, bright and secure and camera monitored. This is my revenge story, but more importantly, it's my resurrection story. And unlike Connor, I actually rose from the dead.